In 1917, a factory in Orange, New Jersey started hiring young women for what seemed like the best job in town. Clean work, good pay, and it came with a strange, magical perk. By the end of the shift, you'd be glowing in the dark. The company was the United States Radium Corporation. The job: painting watch dials with a glow-in-the-dark paint made from actual radium. And in a few years, that magical job would kill almost every woman who took it. Radium had just been discovered a couple of decades earlier by Marie Curie, and by the 1910s, it was being marketed as a wonder substance. Added to water, toothpaste, even chocolate, sold as a health tonic. Nobody understood radiation sickness yet. Science hadn't caught up to the danger. At the Orange, New Jersey factory, roughly 300 women sat at long tables painting tiny numbers onto watch and clock dials with paint nicknamed Undark. The brushes had to keep a fine point, so supervisors taught the women a technique: lip, dip, paint. Put the brush between your lips to shape the tip, dip it in the radium paint, paint the dial. Repeat, hundreds of times a day. The women weren't just working with radium, they were ingesting it, brushstroke after brushstroke, day after day. And it didn't feel dangerous at all. The paint had no taste, no smell. Some of the women even painted their nails, teeth, and faces with it before nights out, so they'd glow when the lights went down. Meanwhile, the company's own chemists and scientists, the people who actually understood radium, took every precaution around it. But the women on the factory floor were never warned. As far as they knew, they had one of the best jobs available to women. Then, starting around 1922, the symptoms began. It started small: an aching tooth, a sore jaw, dentists would pull the tooth, and the socket wouldn't heal. It would just keep decaying. Then came anemia. Then spontaneous bone fractures. Then tumors. Then their jawbones, quite literally, began to crumble away. Doctors had never seen anything like it. Nobody connected it to the factory job until one former dial painter named Grace Fryer decided to fight back. Grace had worked at the factory for about 3 years before moving on to a job as a bank teller. A couple of years later, her teeth started falling out and her jaw wouldn't stop swelling. It took years before anyone suggested the cause: radium. By 1925, Grace decided to sue. It took her to more years just to find a lawyer willing to take on a powerful corporation. In 1927, she and 4 other former dial painters filed a lawsuit. The press nicknamed them the Radium Girls. By the first hearing in 1928, the women were so weak they could barely raise their arms to take the courtroom oath. The company had spent months denying any wrongdoing and hiring scientists to dispute the women's own doctors. The case was ultimately settled out of court. But by then, it was far too late for most of them. Tom MacDonald died in 1929. Grace Fryer and Catherine Shaw both died in 1933. Their fight didn't die with them. The case forced American law to confront workplace disease caused by slow, invisible exposure, not just sudden accidents. It's why companies today must disclose hazardous materials, and why we didn't know stopped being an acceptable excuse. 5 women dying of radium poisoning ended up rewriting the rules for every worker who came after them. If you want more stories like this, the One's History books, skip over to hit subscribe. New bite-sized history every week.